Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chris McDaniel's America. I'm Jack Fairchilds, once again filling in for Chris. As we've said, he's been working on a major case that I think is getting close to going to trial. So we hope to have Chris back in the next couple of weeks, but depending on how this case goes and if the trial lasts for a while, I mean, we just don't know. I mean, but his time has been extremely dominated by this case, and as it should be. You know, when you're a professional lawyer, you've got to focus on your clients first and foremost. But I'm here, and I'm bringing you the latest episode, folks. And of course, we're here on the Midnight Ride Network, your home for the anti-establishment movement. Before we get into the show, of course, I'm proudly wearing a Team USA soccer shirt today. Happy to see their big win on Friday night. I'm a huge World Cup fan. If you're a fan of the World Cup, you can check out my podcast on it that I put out, the World Cup 26 wrap up. It's out there for sports fans to check out, but it was exciting to see the United States open the World Cup in a fashion that they have never done before. So I'm excited about the tournament, and you can hear more about that on that podcast I mentioned. But today we're going to be a lot more serious. And if you're one of those people that gets uncomfortable when we start talking about race, then this might not be the show for you, because we're going to be talking about race today. Because we kind of have to. And it's all been highlighted over this Karmelo Anthony case out in Texas. You know, the case where Anthony stabbed Austin Metcalf, another high school track meet participant at the track meet. Well, he was convicted of murder earlier this week. He was sentenced 35 years. Some are mad that he was given that long of a sentence. Others are mad that quite frankly, it wasn't longer. And we're going to talk about that because, again, the particulars of the case to me are extremely clear. And the defense did not do a good enough job, in my opinion, of selling their point. So, quite frankly, I agree with the verdict. And we're going to talk about it because, again, it has sparked this divide. And its divide is straight down the racial line. Sure, there's some liberal white people out there who are going to side with the Karmelo Anthony side, but it's not because they truly believe. It's because they want to try to exploit, and they enjoy the race-baiting aspects of everything that they can put forth. That's what they do, people. They love to try to figure out a way to keep that divide going. For one, you've got certain groups out there that this is the whole basis of their fundraising. But this case should be pretty clear, because when you look at the facts of it, it's clear that this verdict was the only logical verdict that could have been reached. Like I said, we can argue about the sentencing. That part might be up for debate. But the verdict, this is not a case of someone just victimizing a young black man and putting him behind bars. This is a case where Karmelo Anthony pulled a knife out of his bag and stabbed another high school student at a track meet. So again, the argument that he was being bullied, it doesn't pass the smell test, especially when you listen to the testimony, which, oh, by the way, several of those that testified were also black. So it's not like they just got a bunch of white witnesses to get up there. But again, this is drawing a racial divide. And it's gotten so disgusting. It's gotten so disgusting to the point that there are people that are posting photos of themselves peeing on Austin Metcalf's grave. That's sickening. No matter where you stand, that is 100% sickening. Why? Why would you ever in your wildest imagination think that that's an okay image to post on social media? Why in your wildest idea would you ever think that that's an appropriate thing to even emulate. Now, thankfully, hopefully this is true. Most of what I've seen, these images have been created through AI. It's not actually people going to the grave site and doing it, although I'm sure some will see this and will copycat it because that's what happens. But it's still disgusting. It's still disgusting. And I just don't understand why anyone would ever think that was acceptable. Then you've got the race hustlers out there who have already descended on Texas. I saw a video, and I don't know the woman's name, and quite frankly, if I did, I don't know that I'd give her any credit. But there was a woman who, after the verdict, she showed up, so I'm here now. I wasn't here before because I was busy. And she was just up there talking about how she was a civil rights activist and she was going to make this. The entire speech she gave was all about her. It wasn't, she'd sprinkle in a nugget about Karmelo Anthony, but it was all about how important she was and how she was going to talk about how the DA should be in jail because there was a sexual harassment complaint against him. Again, stretch, but that's who these people are, because they think that if they can try to discredit anyone that's on the other side, they don't want to prove Anthony's innocence as much as they want to prove that there's the people on the other side are just bad people. It's a sad, sad incident because there are two families whose lives were destroyed when Anthony made the decision to stab another person. The argument of self-defense, it just doesn't pass the muster because nothing about the altercation leads you to believe that his life was in danger. And several of the witnesses claim that Anthony told them to do something about it after he entered the tent. It's an absurd argument across the board that has been made, but it's even further absurd that people are trying to say that this verdict was racially motivated. Not a chance. This is one of the dumbest things that I have heard in a long time, and it doesn't surprise me. And again, we see this all the time where you see, because of how effective some of these race hustlers have been throughout history, we see these minority groups instantly siding with the accused every time, no matter what, even before any testimony or any evidence is laid out. Their mind is already made up. They have already sided with Anthony. And then when things don't pass the smell test, they come up with excuses. They want to paint the now convicted murderer as the victim. They want to paint the now convicted murderer as the person that has been abused in the situation. And it doesn't pass the smell test. Maybe Karmelo Anthony was a pretty good kid who made a horrendous mistake. Maybe he was never a good kid. I don't know. I don't know the kid. I do know this, and it was indisputable. He stabbed Austin Metcalf and killed him. A jury of his peers agreed with that sentiment. That's why he was convicted. But they want to sit back and try to pretend that Austin Metcalf is the victim in this situation, all while ignoring the actual victim whose life is over, whose life ended at the hands of Karmelo Anthony. Again, this whole divide and conquer into tribes thing has gotten old. This entire race baiting argument that they constantly want to throw out there. This ridiculous, well, there were no black jurors. There were some minority jurors from what I've read, but they just didn't happen to be black. So it wasn't an all-white jury, and who cares if it was? The facts and the evidence led that jury down that path. And the jury was selected in the correct fashion. But again, the excuses have to outweigh everything. You have to put an excuse out. There's no way that this could have been a fair conviction, because if it was, oh, sweet little Karmelo would have walked. Oh, sweet little Karmelo would not have been convicted. That's the argument they're making. I came across, while I was working on this ridiculous, while I was working on this and seeing how ridiculous some of these people are, I found a Howard professor, Dr. Allison Wiltz, who is trying to make this into a racial thing, where she is trying to basically say that he only got convicted because he stabbed a white teenager. And the fact that the history has a history of racial prejudice. Again, this whole thing that she is trying to perpetrate, she's trying to say that obviously they couldn't reach a conclusion because they were letting their prejudice get in the way. Again, it's assuming that everyone that doesn't look like you hates you. That makes you the prejudiced one in my mind. It's going to assure you that's not the way how I think. I don't care. I never viewed this case under the lens of race. I viewed it under the lens of one student killed another student at a track meet. One student brought a knife to a track meet. And when there was an altercation, made the choice to go to his bag, pull that knife out, and stick it into the other student. Pretty clear cut. Karmelo Anthony is not a victim. He is not a hero. He should never be a civil rights icon. But they want to try to turn him into a martyr in this great race debate. And why did the national media grab onto it and turn it into a national media type case? Because it checks the boxes they love. The national media is just as responsible for the race baiting game that we continue to see. Because they could have stayed out of this case. They could have stayed on the outskirts of everything that could happen. But again, they didn't. They decided, hey, we can put this out there because it's a black kid and a white kid. So if we utilize this, we can exploit it. It'll be good for our ratings. It'll be good for the things that we want to cover. No, this is not a case of injustice. Justice was served. He was put on trial. The evidence was overwhelming. He was convicted. He has the right to an appeal. He will, I'm sure, appeal because they always do. I don't think he'll win an appeal because the evidence is overwhelming. He didn't even take the stand in his own defense, which tells you he had a feeling he wasn't going to win even if he got up there and spoke. Again, it's clear cut. We know firsthand that he did stab that kid. There are too many witnesses telling us that. There are too many people out there who have come out, and like I said, now he's been convicted. It's sad. It's tragic. Right here in my home state in Mississippi this week, we had a Covington County deputy, Rodney Yates, who was shot. And of course, Yates is a white male, and he was shot by a black suspect. 2 black suspects were arrested, both of them brothers, who also happened to be brothers of another, their younger brother, who was arrested the week before and accused in the murder of an elderly couple. Again, so that family doesn't look like it's on the up and up. But wouldn't you know, Here come the race hustlers right in here. In this case, Deputy Yates, he's paralyzed now. Yet the race hustlers, they want to say, well, it looks like he was fired from this place, so he must be a terrible person and deserved it. There are folks rushing. Again, this is a family now that has one person about to face trial for murder of an elderly couple, and the other two brothers are now facing attempted murder charges in the shooting of this deputy. It's not a race case. There's no racial thing. There's no racial justification for shooting a cop. There just isn't. But the race hustlers are out there in force, and they're already doing whatever they can. They're wanting to paint Deputy Yates in a negative light. And maybe he has something in his past that was bad, but that doesn't mean he couldn't have changed. Again, that's the thing. Liberals ask for forgiveness all the time when one of them falls short. But if it's somebody that that's on the other side, or somebody that they hope that they can exploit for their own benefit, there's nothing they can ever do to be forgiven. There's nothing. No amount of rehabilitation will be enough for them. So again, here we are. And there's some debate whether or not this whole claim of what he did in a different department somewhere else, if that's even the right officer. There's been very unclear, but that hadn't stopped them from taking that narrative and running with it. Again, would they be doing that if the person that shot Deputy Yates was white? Would they care if there wasn't the chance to create the racial division that they have been creating? It just, again, everything's not always about race. There are good people and bad people, and sometimes bad people are going to belong to your race. It's just the truth. I know that people don't like to hear that, but again, it's the truth. There are 100% people who look like you that are just flat out rotten to the core. Maybe it's they had bad upbringing. Maybe it's they just were born bad. I don't know. Don't care. You shoot a cop, you're a bad person. I don't care if you don't like police officers. I don't care. You shoot a cop, you're a bad person. And there's no justification for it. The only way you can justify it is if that cop's trying to kill you and not upholding the law. That does not appear to be the case in the one that I just referenced, but it's there. Of course, of the race hustlers out there, we already know some of the usual suspects have already started to line up to make sure that they are seen saying something about this Karmelo Anthony verdict. Representative Jasmine Crockett, the race-baiting buffoon from Texas. Yeah, she's steps in this type of stuff all the time. She's not a bright person, but of course she wants to be one of the leading voices on this Karmelo Anthony case. She came out and on a podcast she had after the verdict, she made false claims about the trial and its jury as she continued to stir up racial hatred. She said, I'm not necessarily convinced. Not that I could tell you the name of one person on this jury, that we had 12 impartial white folks out in Collin County sitting on that jury for a young black man. Again, showing more empathy for the convicted murderer than for the victim and his family. And of course, she's a complete idiot and does not fact check anything that she says. There have been multiple people that confirmed that the jury was not made up only of white people. Of the 12 jurors, 3 were racial minorities, including Asian and Indian. 8 were women and 4 were men. So there, your entire argument that it was an entirely white jury is thrown out of the window there. And the fact that she wants to sit back, again, what trial was she watching if she's not convinced? I was reading the testimony. I was reading the verdicts. Of course, she will not retain her seat in Texas. So I'm very, very happy to see her know that she's about to enter the world of irrelevancy, because that's where she belongs. She has proven time and time again she's not a smart person. But she decided to once again compare being a black woman in America to the victim's family. She said black women, especially black women who have black male children, live in fear and agony every single day. A fear and agony that I promise you the Metcalfs probably had never spent a day living that way. What does that even mean? I mean, it sounds like she has no compassion for the Metcalf family that lost its son. Here's the dirty, rotten secret. Karmelo Anthony, let's assume he serves the full 35 years. He's there for a full 35-year term, which I don't think he will be. But let's assume he is. He still gets to live. He still gets to one day have his freedom again. Austin Metcalf doesn't get that. His life was ended at the hands of Karmelo Anthony. His family never gets to see him again. Karmelo Anthony, his family will get to see him. And not just behind a jail cell. They'll get to see him when he's released from prison, which will happen. This is such an absurd statement that just continues to show how ridiculous. She also tried to argue, and this one cracks me up, that the knife used to kill Metcalf by Karmelo Anthony was not a deadly weapon. How can you make that argument with a straight face when it was the weapon that was used to kill Metcalf? Of course, the new Black Panther Party showed up on the scene there to be a part of this, which again, they are pretty much just a black version of the KKK. They are a they are a racist organization, and that's what they've always been. But they get a pass from the mainstream media, despite the fact that they are a hate group and should be treated as one. They get a pass. I just, again, none of these people want to put themselves in the seat of the Metcalf family. They want to place judgment. They convicted Austin Metcalf of being a bully without ever hearing any testimony, without ever hearing anything. They were already convinced that he and his family must be racist. That was their entire belief structure that they had. And it's sickening. Because again, this is a tragic event. As I said, from the get-go. The Metcalf family is still hurting. They're still grieving. And yet, you've got these idiots posting pictures of them peeing on Austin's grave. Do you think that makes the Metcalf family feel good to see that? Do you think that helps their grieving to see these people? I haven't seen Jasmine Crockett condemn any of those images. I haven't seen her come out and say that we shouldn't do that. No, instead, she stokes the racial flames because that's what people like her do. It's how they make money. It's how they remain popular or remain relevant. They find a racially charged issue and they jump in it without any investigation. You go back several years ago. There was that whole Duke lacrosse rape case. Al Sharpton was one of the first ones on the scene to jump in there because, again, it involved a black female. Of course, it came out later that she lied, that the charges against the Duke lacrosse team were false. I never saw Al Sharpton come out and issue an apology, despite the fact he took those kids' name and drug them through the mud, despite the fact that the evidence was there to show that, again, she lied. The alleged victim lied. And that happens sometimes. And that's why maybe before you turn it into a race debate, maybe you should try to get some facts and get your own investigation going. I know there are people out there watching this who are mad because how dare I call out the racial divide in this country? How dare I point out, me as a white person, I can't say that there are racist black people out there. There is this ridiculous argument that is constantly made that minorities can't be racist because they don't have power. Argue that they have a lot of power, especially when the mainstream media is quick to defend them over anyone else. But it's absurd because hate is hate. Racism is rooted in hatred. And if you hate somebody for the color of their skin, I don't care what color you are. You're a racist. So yes, minorities can 100% be racist. That entire argument that they can't has always been absurd and stupid and has no basis in reality, because you're seeing full-on racism from the reaction of these people. It's just absurd to me that this is where we are going. This country, how do we get back from this? When you've got representatives out there that are continuing to chart down this path time and time again. When you've got representatives, these are people that are serving in Congress saying this. You've got these activists, these so-called whistleblowers, or whatever they want to call themselves, that are instantly jumping in to try to attack a now paralyzed deputy. All because all they see is the racial component. They don't see anything else. They don't see the evidence. They don't see the victims' families. They don't see anything. But they see that was a white person that got killed or shot, and that's a black person accused, and they instantly assume the person that looks like them is innocent before any evidence is outlaid. Before anything is shown to the public, they've already convinced themselves of his innocence. My advice to everyone is always to caution yourself. Now, we're not done with this topic. I'm gonna continue on it before we move on to anything else, because this is an important topic. We can't be afraid to talk about race in this country. We have to. Because the only way we're going to get better is if we talk about this stuff and actually try to figure out solutions at some point. But we've got a commercial break coming up right here, right now. And I'm going to pause for it and let our sponsor talk to you guys for a second. And maybe you guys might want to go buy a good product from these guys. This is Chris McDaniel's America here on the Midnight Ride Network, your home for the anti-establishment movement.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back. The MyPillow guy.
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, MyPillow 2.0.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took MyPillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented MyPillow to bring you the best pillow in history, MyPillow 2.0. Just like all of you, I never imagined that MyPillow could get any better. That's why I haven't changed it in nearly 20 years. Then I heard about a revolutionary new technology, and I knew I had to bring it to you all. MyPillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of MyPillow.
The MyPillow 2.0 is cooler and softer than the last MyPillow. It is so comfortable to sleep on at night. I look forward to going to bed, and I wake up well rested in the morning.
Sleep is all about temperature and height. MyPillow 2.0's patented adjustable fill is going to give you the exact individual support you need from your head to your bed. And now here's where it gets even better. We've all experienced those temperature-related sleep interruptions where you get too hot, you toss and turn, you flip your pillow over to the cool side. Well, all that's gone with my brand new MyPillow 2.0 cooling fabric that's made with temperature-regulating thread.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a MyPillow or not, you need to get the brand new MyPillow 2.0. Call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit mypillow.com.
Hello, guys. Welcome back here to Chris McDaniel's America here on the Midnight Ride Network. I'm Jack Fairchilds, once again filling in for Chris McDaniel. Again, we hope to have Chris back real soon. I think that his big case is going to trial maybe this week. So hopefully things go well and we'll have him back. But you never know how those things go, especially when you're dealing with the court system and things like that. But again, I'm here, and part of the reason why I didn't ask for anybody to sit in with me today is we're talking about race. Race makes people uncomfortable, especially when you talk about the fact that we need to start having open dialogues and not instantly just siding with one race over the other because one person looks like us. A Howard professor decided that it was a good idea to attack the father of Austin Metcalf, arguing that the teen's death did not begin with the knife wielded by Karmelo Anthony, but instead that his father's parenting style was to blame. Dr. Stacy Patton, a professor at Howard University School of Communications, penned an opinion piece titled, "Dear Jeff Metcalf, your son is dead because you failed to teach him that black boys have boundaries." This professor, again, he won't be because he's teaching at a historically black university, so they won't do anything to him. But he should be fired because the title alone is offensive. So you're telling me that black people have a boundary, and if I cross it, it's okay for them to stab me in the gut and kill me. That's what you're saying just with that headline alone. I'm not going to call you doctors. I'm going to call you Mr. Patton because I don't respect your PhD in the slightest when you're going to put out crap like this. And the fact that you're in communications speaks volumes about how liberal that university must be, because you are an embarrassment to that university. He wrote, "You have failed to teach your boys that black children have boundaries. You failed to teach humility, restraint, or the sacred fact that another person's body is not your jurisdiction. You failed to teach him that another child's space is not a challenge to be conquered. You failed to teach him that community does not mean white boys get to decide who belongs and who does not." And that last part, this is all about the argument over the fact that Anthony entered another school's tent and was asked to leave, and he refused. Well, I don't know much about these Texas track meets, but from what I've read and what I've understood, each school has its own tent, and it's frowned upon for athletes at another school to come into another school's tent. Anthony did that. So maybe Karmelo Anthony's family failed to teach him what boundaries meant. Maybe this so-called professor fails to grasp the fact that a boundary was crossed, and it was crossed by Karmelo Anthony that instigated the whole thing. I'm sorry, but telling somebody to leave, and even if I do not think you should put your hands on another person, but even that does not justify a stabbing. It just doesn't. Like I said, nothing is going to happen to Mr. Patton. He will continue to teach there, which is offensive. I mean, he went further. He said, you obviously failed to teach your son that touching, confronting, crowding, testing, or policing another person can have consequences. And you failed to teach him that the same world that cheers white boys for being bold and aggressive will not always be there to save them when they mistake somebody else's restraint for permission. Restraint. Doesn't sound like Anthony had much restraint. The fact that he went straight to a knife. No blame being put on Karmelo. It's all the victim's fault. No, I'm sorry, but Anthony made a choice too, and his choice has consequences. Those consequences are 35 years in prison. He took another person's life. He didn't have to go that path. And to try to continue to paint this kid as a victim is absurd. No, Mr. Patton, you should be removed from the university because you're an embarrassment. Your entire argument only sees things through the prism of color. And if we want to change this country and if we want to get away from all this race-based nonsense, we're going to have to get to a point where we can talk about this stuff and have open dialogues. Black people continue to want to try to play the victim card. Enough is enough. If you were to close your eyes and not see the race of either of these two boys, and you were presented with the exact same evidence, and it was two white kids, easy conviction. Nobody'd argue. If it was two black kids, easy conviction. Nobody would argue. None of these race hustlers would be on the scene or writing any of this nonsense because, again, it wouldn't. But the fact that it's a white victim and a black convicted murderer, obviously the system's broken. It's absurd to me that this continues to be the narrative. This continues to be the argument. When I say that we have to have an open dialogue, you have to listen. You can't just play the victim card every time and say, well, slavery. Oh, well, these civil rights injustices before the civil rights movement. Enough of that stuff. All of that, horrible. Bad, but it doesn't exist anymore. A lot of the issues now are of your own design, and you don't want to talk about that because, again, it doesn't play into the victimhood that you like to play. The myth of systemic racism that you have just adapted into your brain, which gives you a built-in excuse whenever things don't go your way. Enough of that. You got to be willing to sit down and have an honest conversation because the moment that you go to those cards, guess what? Anybody that you're trying to have this conversation with, anybody that you're trying to negotiate with, they instantly tune you out because they understand that they're not going to have a true back and forth with you because you've adopted a victim mentality. You have to sit down and be willing to hear the other side because, again, for years you haven't. For years you've gone down the same path time and time again. A path where you instantly look at someone who should be objectively looked at as guilty, convicted. And you find a way. The O.J. Simpson trial, years ago, it drew down racial lines despite the overwhelming evidence in that case. And yes, O.J. was found innocent in that case. Very few people to this day believe that that verdict was correct. Matter of fact, he was found guilty in a civil suit. So much so that another case found him guilty in that. Of course, no jail time in a civil case, but again, it's fascinating when you see things and it gets drawn down a racial line. And again, we've got to stop doing that. We've got to just start looking at the evidence of the case. Time and time again, our court reporter, Kevin Lindsay, who does an outstanding job going and covering these court cases, but he'll come back and he'll give us a story of how a jury just proved it was incapable of being impartial because the evidence was overwhelming and everything he saw and heard from the testimony was overwhelming, and yet come back with a hung jury. Again, just because they look like you doesn't automatically mean you should think they're innocent. Goes both ways. If this case was flipped and the same testimony that we received in this case was the same thing, then I would say that the verdict should stay the same. Wouldn't matter if the victim was black. Wouldn't matter if the victim was white. I mean, the murderer was white. In this scenario, I would say the evidence would still be the key factor and the winner. The defense didn't prove self-defense. They just didn't. And now we're going to wait till we get the appeals process to go through, and I don't think it's going to be successful because I don't see anything. They're going to argue that because he was convicted without a black person on the jury, that somehow the trial was tainted. That's going to be their entire argument. I don't see that working out for them. But people, you got to stop listening to these race hustlers who are only making money off of this racial divide. It doesn't matter if they're widely known, like Al Sharpton or the late Jesse Jackson, or if they're just some local yahoos blowing whistles and doing whatever nonsense that they can. You just have to make sure that you know that these people are actually on the up and up, because 90% of them, they're only doing it for clicks, and those clicks translate into money in their pocket. They're not doing it because they actually believe in anything. They're doing it because they think they can exploit you. There are some out there who will offer to come help you with whatever your case is for a fee, and then they're going to deliver minimal effort to getting you there. They're going to take that, they're going to take your money, and then they're going to do very little. But stand up there and talk, and when they're talking, watch how many times they reference themselves. Because it's going to be a lot. It's what they do. They are kings of making sure everybody knows who they are. They're kings of making sure everything that they do is important, that everyone knows how important they are. I recoil away from the repeated me, I. That's something that is a bad trait, especially when you're up there claiming that you're fighting for the victims or whom you perceive to be the victim. But when everything's about how important you are, when everything, I'm this grand civil rights activist that nobody's ever heard of, but you're going to make sure that it's included 9 times in your speech that you're this great civil rights activist. You really think that person has your best interest at heart? Or do you think that person likes making sure everyone knows that they are involved in this activity, that they are the one fighting for you? You got to see past the grifters. You got to see past the race hustlers, because that's what these people are. That's the sad fact. More news. We're going to get off of race for a second, because we are watching as Trump this morning reported that they were close to a peace deal with Iran. Trump made the comments during an interview with Fox News. He said that the deal with Iran could have been signed in a couple of hours, but of course he also pointed out that Iran has backed away from negotiations at the last minute several times. Based on everything that's happening right now, and the fact that that Israel struck Lebanon, now Iran is holding off, I guess, on signing the deal, which, again, until it's signed, you can't trust Iran. Iran is one of those countries that is crazy. They are not somebody you can take at their word. They have downplayed President Trump's claim that the peace deal will be signed today, and based on where we are in the day, that's probably accurate. So we will see how things play out. But, again, I'm hopeful that we can see an end to this conflict with Iran. But at the same time, I just don't believe that it's coming anytime soon, because until it happens, we've heard this song and dance a couple of times. We've seen this song and dance way too many times. More news as we switch gears before we wrap up this show, because I know we're getting close to the end, probably about 9 minutes, I think. We have seen that Mitch McConnell has been hospitalized. Mitch McConnell, 84-year-old senator from Kentucky, he's 84. He should not be still in the Senate. This is a rant that I have time and time again. Despite how terrible Mitch McConnell's been, he's a true rhino. Even if he was a rock-solid conservative, I'd say the same thing. At 84, you shouldn't be serving in the Senate. We currently have Chuck Grassley from Iowa at 92 and Bernie Sanders at 84. This shouldn't happen. There should be an age cap. And once you hit that age, you can't run again. But we don't do that, and these people, they can't do anything else with their lives. They obviously can't retire. It's not the first time that McConnell has had to be taken to the hospital in recent years. It's not going to be the last, but this is another example of why we should not be allowing you to die in office, because that seems to be our MO now, is we're never going to vote them out. We don't have term limits. So they're just going to stay up there until they pass away. And then we have to have somebody appointed who instantly gets that incumbency. It's a protection racket. These people they're addicted to the power. They do not want to give up the power. While thoughts and prayers go out there to McConnell and his family, he should not be serving. And neither should either of the other two. We need an age cap on how long you can serve in Congress, because I think once you hit a certain age, you start to say, I don't just think it, science backs it up. Once you hit a certain age, you slow down. Look, I'm 50, and I can tell you right now, I can't do some of the things I could have done 10 years ago. It's just not going to be possible. Sometimes it may take me longer to go over something than it did in the past. I can only imagine what it will be like at 84. McConnell, of course, is not running again, but he is planning on serving out this entire term. He should really consider not. More news before we wrap up. Of course, President Trump turned 80 today, becoming only the second sitting U.S. president to reach that age while in office. Look, I like Trump, but again, the same thing I said before, age is an issue that I think should be addressed at some point. There should be an age cap. But tonight, of course, we're going to see a big deal there, as they're going to have this huge UFC fight right there from the White House lawn, which is part of the America 250th celebration. I don't know how I feel about having an MMA event on the White House lawn. I'm sure it's going to be fun. I will probably turn it on if I'm not wrapped up in watching a World Cup match. But I probably will turn it on because I enjoy fights. But, but it's part of the spectacle of having a huge, big deal made out of the 250th birthday of the United States of America. And I guess because of that, you can kind of look past it being there. But again, it does seem a little silly to stage a fight on the White House lawn. I mean, you're going to have a much smaller crowd because, again, how many people are you going to be able to bring in on the White House lawn? Everyone that has to come in is going to have to go through some of the most excruciating security protocols ever to attend a sporting event. It's going to feel like, going to the airport and walking through TSA. I would imagine it'll feel like that on steroids tonight for anyone that is going to be in attendance for this. It will be a cool backdrop spectacle without a doubt. But again, I don't know how I feel about it. Well, again, I'll watch it. I'm sure most of us will turn it on at least out of a passing curiosity. And the fact that it is part of the 250th celebration, that kind of gives it a little bit more of a justification than what we could have had in the past. So again, I get it and I understand the rationale for it, but I don't know. I'm just a little old fashioned when it comes to that things. And I like my White House lawns free of octagons, but it is what it is. And hey, if that's something that you're excited about and that's your thing, awesome. I'm excited for you. Not a criticism of anyone that wanted to put this event on. I just not sure it's the event I would have chosen, but that's me. But am I offended by it? No, because like I said, I'm going to turn it on most likely because I'm curious to see how it pulls off, especially they're saying it might rain tonight. I'm not sure that you can pull off an MMA fight in the rain because, that mat would be a little slick. So I don't know if they have a cover that will be over the ring of the octagon. I keep wanting to call it a ring because I'm more of a boxing fan. I don't know if they have some type of cover that will keep the rain from saturating the mat, but again, it's going to be a spectacle. So that's part of the reason why I will probably be tuning in. But of course, I don't know that I'll stick through the whole thing. That's funny how that happens for us too. We'll get pulled into something because of the sideshow nature of it. The fact that this is something that has never been done. We've never seen this before. We'll get sucked into that. And that's part of why it's entertainment. And I think that's going to be for a lot of people tonight. You're probably going to have some folks who've never watched a UFC fight before that are going to tune in merely because, so I understand why the UFC wanted to do it, because it's going to put more eyeballs on their product tonight. They're going to tune into it. They're going to walk away from it probably entertained. Some are probably going to walk away from it horrified. If they've never seen an MMA fight before, they may not like what they see, but I think it's going to be a very, very entertaining event, no matter whether or not I believe it is justified or not, but it's going to be an entertaining event for sure. But of course, you're going to have, because again, going back to the original theme, you're going to have folks in one tribe that are going to be nothing but critical of it, no matter how successful it is, no matter how well produced it is, how well put together it is. You're going to have one tribe that's going to be 100% opposed to it, another tribe that is going to be rah, 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 and then you're going to have a handful of us like, it was fun. This goes back to, again, the racial divide that was the entire theme of the majority of this show. It ties into the political divide that we talk about constantly. I can promise you, when it comes to the racial divide, the liberals are a lot of the ones that are fanning the flames. Everything's a dog whistle to them. Anyone that disagrees with them is racist. Anyone that puts forth an opinion that might challenge their beliefs, well, they're just coming to that from hate. And that's part of the reason why we can't have an honest dialogue. That's part of the reason why we can't have the honest conversations around this stuff. Because as long as my position and everyone on my side's position is always just dismissed as racist, coming from a position of hate, then how can we ever hope to move forward? How can we ever have honest dialogue about any of this stuff? We can't. Because if you instantly discredit my opinion, if you instantly tell me that I'm not entitled to believe like I believe because of the color of my skin, I hate to break it to you, but that's racist in and of itself. I can have an opinion that is different than yours. You can have an opinion that's different than mine. But if you're instantly discrediting my belief without knowing what's in my heart, without understanding anything about me as racist, then guess what? There's no reason for us to have a dialogue because you won't hear anything I say. All you're going to do is continue to view my opinion through the prism of race, through the idea that everything is masquerading as a racial component. That's why it's important to start having these conversations. That's why it's important for us to have these dialogues. Because again, if we want to improve it, if we honestly are hoping for any type of improvement in this country when it comes to race relations, which we were getting close years ago. This nation that you like to say is racist, elected Barack Hussein Obama to be president. I hate to say it. He didn't win because of black people. He won because he crossed over the racial divide. Now, I don't like him as a president because I didn't agree with his policies. It had nothing to do with the color of the skin of the man. There are some who say that I wouldn't vote for Barack Obama merely because of the colors. It's false. 100% false. I'm a conservative. I'm never going to side with a liberal. Just isn't going to happen. But that's another example of the racial divide. And if this nation was truly a racist nation, Barack Obama would have never been president of the United States. It would have never happened. All these people want to say that Kamala Harris lost because of racism. Patently false. She lost because people heard her speak. I mean, that's the facts. Again, we were on the cusp of something. I think Barack Obama's 8 years in office did more to harm the racial relationships than anything else. He could have been the great uniter that he claimed he was going to be when he took office, but instead, he, like all the others I've mentioned, he stoked the racial flames time and time again. And until we start calling out race hustlers, until we start putting forth an honest dialogue in which I can say what I believe without having an ism or a phobia thrown in my face, we're never going to see a true improvement in race relations in this country. We just have to get to that point to where we can. And if we finally will, and we can focus on the things that unite us above the things that divide us. You know, I know we're running up against the end of the show, but that's one of the things the other night, let off the show, talking about the U.S. men's national soccer team winning that match. And I saw people on my timeline, on the TV screen, that I know don't agree on certain issues. They don't agree on politics or multiple things. But they were all celebrating that win. That night, we were all Americans because we were excited because we had a team representing our flag that looked really good. We need to find more moments like that and grab onto them. And then I think we can. Once we start to find those commonalities, we can find that thing that unites us. And then we can have these honest, tough discussions. But it's never going to happen as long as one side is allowed to label the other side incorrectly. Because why do I want to sit down with you if I'm just going to be called names and we're not going to have a good discussion? Guys, I thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Chris McDaniel's America here on the Midnight Ride Network, your home for the anti-establishment movement. We'll be back again sometime next week. Probably will still be me in the conductor's chair. Maybe I'll bring somebody along for the ride next time, but I know Chris misses you guys, and I know he is really, really ready to get back in front of the camera, but hey, life happens, and I'm happy to fill in for him as long as it takes so he can come back and give you some good content as well. This has been Chris McDaniel's America. Thanks for watching.
Looks like you've been sleeping well,
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
and you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took My Pillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented My Pillow to bring you the best pillow in history, My Pillow 2.0. Just like all of you, I never imagined that My Pillow could get any better. That's why I haven't changed it in nearly 20 years. Then I heard about a revolutionary new technology, and I knew I had to bring it to you all. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
The My Pillow 2.0 is cooler and softer than the last My Pillow. It is so comfortable to sleep on at night. I look forward to going to bed, and I wake up well rested in the morning.
Sleep is all about temperature and height. My Pillow 2.0's patented adjustable fill is going to give you the exact individual support you need from your head to your bed. And now here's where it gets even better. We've all experienced those temperature-related sleep interruptions where you get too hot, you toss and turn, you flip your pillow over to the cool side. Well, all that's gone with my brand new My Pillow 2.0 cooling fabric that's made with temperature-regulating thread.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a MyPillow or not, you need to get the brand new MyPillow 2.0. Call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit MyPillow.com.